We started a little bit late, so I'm just going to go a little bit late. And, you know, just to this fact, the fact that we make forward momentum, we've been taking some steps backwards, very, very distressing. And we are living in this enormously polarized time. On campus, we are focused on how we get our students to talk across difference, but that is only a mirror, quite frankly, of the tremendous polarization in our country, which I do think is hurting us in so many ways and really turning the clock back. How do we move beyond this? How do we function and build bridges and figure out how we move forward in this tremendously polarized time?
Well, I just wrote a book. It has this bland title, Fascism, A Warning. I decided that I needed to put it into a historic context and to try to figure out what happens when societies are polarized, because there are divisions in all societies, and there have been for some time. And I think recently much more has happened as a result of technology and job displacement, a number of different issues. And so what is interesting, if you look at things historically, Mussolini was the first fascist, and Italy had fought on the side of the Allies during World War I, but had not been recognized properly. There really were a lot of divisions in Italy in terms of their government and rich, poor, et cetera. And what happened is this man arises who is an outsider and somebody that knows how to speak well to people, and decides, rather than bringing the society together, began to exacerbate more in the differences. And so what is interesting, and this is something that I learned in terms of doing the book, because then I wrote about Hitler, and then what's happening now, is that they came to power constitutionally. Mussolini was given power by King Emmanuel, and Hitler was given power by von Hindenburg. The best quote in the book is from Mussolini, which says that if you pluck a chicken one feather at a time, nobody notices. So I think there's a lot of feather plucking going on now. And by the way, you can't say those two words quickly together. So,
I love it.
And it is very hard to define fascist, because fascism is not an ideology. It is a process for gaining power. And because there are divisions, what is needed is a leader who can find common answers and find ways to solve the problems, rather than somebody that exacerbates the divisions. And so that exacerbation of really those divisions, and then finding a leader who identifies himself with one group at the expense of another. And then the other group becomes the scapegoats, so they are responsible for the divisions. Then people who think they're above the law and also think that the press is the enemy of the people. So what I now have my kind of, we all know the see something, say something. I have the do something list, and it is to call it out, then also to have people run for office, or those of us that aren't, support them. Then, and this is the difficult part, is to talk to people with whom we disagree. I happen not to like the word tolerance, because that's put up with. I think we need to respect where their views are coming from and try to figure out how to talk to them, and it's not easy. And then ultimately, I said this the other night, is that there isn't a book or a speech written that doesn't quote Robert Frost. So the quote that I like is, "The older I am, the younger are my teachers." And therefore, I do think we need to spend time talking to the younger generation, bring them into this, and really, I'm often asked if I'm an optimist or a pessimist. I'm an optimist who worries a lot. And so that's why I decided to put out the warning.
I love it. I love it.
Well, amen to all of that. And be sure to pick up Madeleine's book, which really is quite remarkable in its very clear explanation. And I don't want to be a downer, but I will say this. if you take the time to read the Mueller report, actually read it, which all of us in this auditorium are more than capable of doing, you come to two inescapable conclusions. The first is that Russia conducted a sweeping and systemic interference in our election. The second is that obstruction of justice occurred. Now, you cannot read the report chapter and verse, fact after fact, without reaching those conclusions. And yet we are living at a time when there is so much distraction and competition for our attention that what would have been unthinkable 5 years ago, let alone 50 years ago, is now just yesterday's news. I have the rather unusual experience of having worked on the 1974 impeachment inquiry staff. Because when I was in law school, I was part of something called Barristers Union, which was the trial practice group at Yale. And 5 of us were asked to join the impeachment inquiry staff, which I agreed to. And it was an incredible professional experience and a very sobering public experience. And so my job, my first job on that staff, was to research and help write a memo about what is an impeachable offense. Literally, you cannot make my life up. So, here we are. And there is no doubt, in my opinion, that what the founders were most worried about was anything that undermined the integrity of the government, that abused the power of the executive vis-a-vis the other branches of government, that really went to the heart of how you keep this delicate balance of a democracy going. So when I read a book like Madeleine's, and you want to just jump up and yell at points like, why didn't more people speak out? You know, where were the leaders? Where were the business leaders and the academic leaders and the press leaders? And for a million different reasons, in a lot of these settings, people were either not paying attention or they had the unfortunately foolish idea that a Mussolini or a Hitler could be controlled. And so the demagoguery, the appeal to the crowd, the very clever use of symbols, the intimidation, verbal and physical intimidation, was overlooked. And this is a classic pattern. There is nothing new about it. It's just different means of messages being delivered. And I think given the rapidity with which information can be conveyed today because of the internet, it is an even more dangerous set of circumstances because it moves so quickly and it can get so overwhelming. And people, just want to quit hearing about it and get back to their normal lives. There is nothing normal about undermining the rule of law. There is nothing normal about attacking the press. There is nothing normal about trying to undermine another branch of government. There's nothing normal about trying to use the legal system to go after your political enemies. There is nothing normal about any of that. And so I think Madeleine's book is really well named, Fascism, a Warning. And the idea that, it can't happen here is just old-fashioned, my friends. So there is so much at stake and so much that people should be trying to sort through for themselves and perhaps joining in action together to speak out. So I am I am a very worried optimist because there seems to be no staying power for a lot of these really serious threats. And that's part of the strategy. You do something today that's even more outrageous than what you did yesterday. You say something that is totally beyond the pale of what should be expected from any public official. And so what happened yesterday is quickly lost in what's happening today. And this goes way beyond party. More than 1,000 former prosecutors appointed by Republicans and Democrats all said these incidents that are related in Mueller's the second half of his report clearly amount to indictable obstruction of justice charges. And there are so many Republicans who are speaking out, who are organized to keep trying to sound the alarm, but not enough of us. And that means regardless of party, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, libertarian, green, vegetarian, it doesn't matter. Whatever you are, if you care about this incredible experiment that we've been engaged in now for 200 plus years, then you have to be concerned about this. We can get back to arguing about all kinds of things. I was in the Senate for 8 years. I worked with Republicans and I opposed Republicans. That's the way it is supposed to work. And there were Republicans then who are still there, who know better and are afraid to stand up and say what they know.
Well, we promised the audience we'd do a couple of questions, and I think I have the answer to the first one, which is, what would you like to see more Wellesley alumni doing in the world today? I think you've answered the question. Can you tell us, another question is, what do you view as the greatest gifts that Wellesley has given you?
Well, I think two, frankly, friends. I think that we really, the friends that we made here make all the difference, and the capability of always calling on that friendship when it's good and when it's hard. And so I think definitely that. But then skills of trying to figure out how you work your way through problems, logic, and a voice to talk about what you've learned. And so I think those are the things, and then have the friends support the voice.
Perfect.
That's absolutely right. But I agree with that completely, and I just want to answer the first question you asked, Paula, because not everybody's interested in politics who goes to Wellesley. Not everybody wants to be in an appointed or elective office. Absolutely. But people here are interested in something. And if you are interested in math and science and technology, use your skills to communicate the importance of facts and evidence and science as a way of understanding the world that we are in. And if you study the humanities and the arts, use that incredible education, the liberal arts education that is so paramount here, to try to find ways that you can link what you study or what you work on or care about with broader problems in the world, so that your skills and the substance that you've gained here at Wellesley can be put to work on a regular basis. And, Paul and I have talked over the last now nearly 3 years about how challenging it can be for young people, because we are basically conducting a massive experiment in how you develop from a child to an adult. Because with technology, there are so many ways to disconnect from what we call IRL in real life and connect through a distance, connect through a screen. Not the relationships that are face to face, but that are carried over the airwaves. What is that going to mean? How do we even think about that? And a great educational institution like Wellesley can help us maybe understand that, and the people who come forth from here, particularly educated and ready to go forth and do what you believe is of interest and your passion and maybe make a difference in the world, we need your help in trying to figure this out. So this is an exciting time to be a young woman. It's a thrilling time. As with any time, there are all sorts of challenges and questions that you individually will have to answer and that as a group you have to confront. But if we think of Wellesley as a sort of a platform, think of it as a really high platform, and you're going to be up there studying and learning and getting to know people and trying to understand yourself better, who you are, where you came from, where you want to go. And then you graduate and you take that plunge. You are well equipped to take the plunge. It doesn't mean it won't be hard to navigate, because life has a way of surprising us, but you are so well equipped, better than 99.9% of the women who've ever lived in the history of the world. And so think about what means the world to you, and then figure out how you're going to make that world more like what you aspire to and what you dream of. And I think Wellesley set us all off on that path.
Thank you. Did you want to finish? I think we have our marching orders, and not only for our students and our youngest alumni, but given how our lives evolved, it is the work that we all should be engaged in. And I could sit here and talk with you for another hour, but I just thank you for really spending time with us and sharing reflections and wisdom. And before we end, I do have a small gift for each of you.
Paul,
Madeleine.
can I just say, before we end, I am so grateful, as we all are, that you are president. Absolutely incredible.
Thank you. It is truly my great honor, Let me get this for you. These are bound copies of your senior honors theses. Oh, green. Which one is yellow? Oh, you're yellow, and you're green. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and enjoy the rest of reunion. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.